Today's video is a continuation from our first discussion on Pan-Africanism, what it is and what it isn't. Hello again, Micah, welcome. I'm so excited and happy that you're here again for the second round of our conversation. I had so much appreciation and so much fun having to talk to you last time in our discussion. And here we are again today, following up with that. I would really like first actually to start, Micah, with asking you, how was your visit to Ethiopia? It sounded like you were having a blast. I know you were doing a youth summit. So maybe take a minute and share with us how that went, what was your experience like, and then we'll get into the next discussion.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed our last conversation as well. And I'm glad people are enjoying it too. You know, it's just two people who love Africa with everything they got, and you know, they want the best for Africa. So I really appreciate it. Well, my trip to Ethiopia, it was really amazing. I was invited there to speak for Pan-African Youth Summit 2022. I was one of the speakers, and you know, it was just amazing the way that they invited us there and to meet different Africans. And it was just amazing to see youth from all over Africa coming together to talk about Pan-Africanism. You know, back in the days, it was just only for old people, but you know, these days we had like young people, like 16 years old, 17. They were there, very passionate about Africa. We came together. We had like 2 amazing days of just listening to different speakers, talking, sharing. And if you guys are curious what happened, I was actually doing live stream from our channel, Swahili Nation. And also I shared the part of my speech that I delivered. It was amazing. And then the last day we spent a day to just visit all these different projects that are happening in Addis Ababa. We went to Addis Ababa Park, the new park that they're building, and we went to Friendship, and then we went to Unity Park. We visited the Science and Technology Museum that has been built there. One of the amazing mega project I think that has ever happened in Africa, you know, and I'll be uploading the video soon on my channel. So it was just incredible. I think this time it was my second time. I just spent there for like 5 days, I think, or 4 days, but I loved it so much. And when I was leaving, and I was getting emotional, like I was like literally crying in my spirit. But why am I leaving? And when I got here home, you know, I got homesick. I'm missing Ethiopia again. I was there for 2 months before, but I didn't feel the same way, like the way I felt this time. And I guess because everything was just about Africa, and I met these amazing people who have the same spirit. Yeah, it was incredible. I met so many people that were like, hey, want to invite you to come to speak for this, for that. And then I was like, this is what I was born for, you know, to speak to the youth, to bring some change and to share my experience, and hopefully, you know, to change this continent, you know, one day.
You know what? One step at a time, 1% at a time. Like we're gonna chip at this mountain, however long it takes. We're just gonna we're gonna chip at it, and then sooner or later it will happen, and that's the dream, right? I'm glad. From what I've watched on social media, it looked like you were having a blast, and yeah, it made me want to be there too. So it looked like you had a good time there. So I'm glad you went.
I want to get a house there. Now I want to get a house there because it has to be my home, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. And I can't wait to visit Tanzania and also go to Ethiopia. That's the plan. We've planted that seed, so I've been thinking about it though.
Welcome. I'll be right here.
You never know. You know, I might just show up at the airport and say, so I'm here.
I'm done. Anytime I'm done. As long as you come here, I'm done.
All right. If you are interested in joining us in this kind of conversation discussion, reach out to us in any one of the contact information we provided. I'm so excited that something like this has started. Our conversation really is to try and reach out to anyone and everyone who has any interest in seeing Africa, first of all, unite and succeed in all different ways, right? But we're saying it starts from us. Yeah. We're not here to change the whole world of Africa altogether, all at once. But if we can change the world of one, that's a start. So starting this conversation and this discussion, I'm really excited. So what I would like to do today is maybe take points out of what we had talked about the last session, because it was the very first one. We went at it. We touched upon so many huge points. And one of it I would like to start, Maika, with you is you had mentioned the righteous anger. So what exactly do you mean by righteous anger? Last session, we talked about Pan-Africanism, what it is and what it isn't. Based on that premise is why we got into all kinds of discussions. And you had mentioned righteous anger. Say more about that.
Yeah, indeed. I love that. You know, my mama once told me that, hey, my son, to forgive is to heal your soul. And to forgive is to love yourself. And I didn't understand at that moment, but when I was thinking about it, I realized that, you know, we forgive not for the person who has done you wrong, but we forgive for ourselves. So when I say I forgive you, I want to heal myself. And so I forgive you. I let go of whatever anger that I have in my heart. When you're talking about righteous anger, it's not too far from that. Because most of the time when you talk about anger, people, they think about revenge, right? You've done this to me and I want to go ahead to do something, you know, in return. But righteous anger is that understanding of who you are and what you are capable of and what you deserve, not just what you want, but what you deserve. And you want to fight for that with everything you got. And I know there's a word anger. It might sound a little bit negative, but it's a positive, actually. It's that anger of understanding that this is my position and this is what I do deserve, right? It's God-given gift and this is what I deserve to have. And so you stand against whatever injustice that is happening. And when you look at the context of Africa, there's so many injustices that have been happening for so long, for so many years, right? And I think Africans, we have been in a position of, like not really in a point, I don't want to generalize, but not really knowing what we truly want or who we are. I've spoken about, before in this conference that we had in Ethiopia about we're kind of confused of our identity because our history has been changed. Like during colonialism and after that, everything has been changed. It's not how it used to be, right? The names of our artifacts or names of our heritage has been renamed again. You can take a look at Victoria Falls. It was never called Victoria Falls at the first place, or Victoria Lake, or different places that like they used to be the pride of Africa. They were renamed by somebody else, right? Our borders were divided, right? We were taught different languages to start speaking something else. So we're in a point that we do not really appreciate and we do not really know who we really are because our history will kind of transform, right? Even the name Africa, it was named by somebody else, right? There was another name before that called Al-Keburan, right? Which is like the mother of mankind, or another meaning is the Garden of Eden. That was the original name of this beautiful continent. Of course, there's so many theories, but that's one that is close to the truth. And so because of all these things, we are in a point where we're kind of confused, right? We don't know who we are. We don't know where we're coming from. So we end up just start fighting because of things that happened in the past. We look at different enemies, right? I look at my brother and I feel like you're my enemy. I look at different tribe, I think like you're my enemy, right? But in fact, we are actually, one people. So that righteous anger is actually getting back to the roots of knowing who we are and knowing our identity as Africans, that we're one people, regardless of the differences that we have, and fighting for that, okay, now instead of fighting like, with my neighbor, I need to fight for my neighbor, right? I need to stand with him, or I need to stand, with her, and to make sure that we get away from, this hole that we are in right now. So I think it's my simple explanation of that righteous anger. And that's how I feel every time when I stand and I speak or I make video. I feel all this injustice that's going on, not just blaming other people, but even within the continent, right? I see my brothers and sisters dying, every single day, and there's no say to it, or, nothing that is been done. And I'm just getting this this anger that it's not about revenge, but anger of like, I want to see change, right? I want to see change in this. And I think, you know, that anger is kind of like a lubricant to the change that we need. Like, you need to start somewhere. And when you feel something, you feel your neighbor and you feel like this is my problem, then you have responsibility to actually do something to change, you know, what is happening. And I think that's the beginning of our movement.
What you're saying is, when you hear the word anger, first thing that comes to mind is, why are you angry? But that energy of anger, that, you know, people get angry for different reasons. We are usually, most of the time, you're right. When we say I'm angry, it's because we were done wrong. Something has happened that angered us. Righteous anger, you're saying, to use that energy to be angry enough to bring change. Not about what has been done and what continues to happen and be angry and do nothing about it, but to use that anger to go do something about it, something positive, to bring that change to fruition or to see that change. So using that energy to turn it around and not to just stay angry, you know, be angry enough to want to go do the change, right? Be angry enough to undo what is done. To be angry enough to go make it better, make the change, bring something positive, and not just that I'm angry, I'm gonna come at you. And I think you had said it very nicely. Instead of being angry at my neighbor, let me be angry for my neighbor. Like, your pain pains me. And instead of being a part of the problem, being part of the solution, right? Righteous anger, it's not commonly used, but when I hear it, it always really gets to me, because that's what we need, that positive anger, that something that stirs up your motivation, you know, that stirs us up instead of retreating back and giving up and saying, do something about it, you know, that have that willful energy to go do something about it.
That's very interesting, because if we relate and we connect with the concept of forgiveness, it's like, you know, righteous anger leads to change, right? Because it's not coming from a bad place, but it's coming from a place of knowing, understanding, and even forgiving, right? We can forgive, but for me, this is what I believe, that if you tell me that, Mika, forgive and forget, you're not doing fair to me. It's hard to forget what has happened. I can forgive you, but I don't forget, not so that I may do revenge to you, no, so that righteous anger that is in me can bring about change, looking at the past, where I'm coming from, what has happened, and change that to something better. But the difference between righteous anger and other anger, the other anger, it comes from a place of the dark place, the place of unforgiveness, and that always leads to a revenge and to chaos at the end of the day.
So, you know, use that anger, or be angry enough to do something good.
Exactly.
And when we're talking about righteous anger in terms of Pan-Africanism, or in terms of looking at the continent of Africa and what we would like to see Africa become, there are so many things that we say, and there are so many things that anger us from inside, right? So turning that anger to something positive, to something productive, to bringing us together and not allow it to what it set out to do, divide us as a continent, right? As people. I mean, so to me, when we talk about this, righteous anger is to be angry enough to turn that negative to positive. The setup is for me to feel this way. The setup is for me to do this. But righteous anger, you said, comes from the place of forgiveness it comes from the place of, I choose the positive versus the negative. I know it's injustice. I know it's wrong. It shouldn't happen, but it has happened and continues to happen. But I am going to take that and how it makes me feel and that energy and turn it into something useful, something justice, something right, something positive. Because I know people are going to listen to this conversation, and I know people would be like, wait, how do you put anger and righteousness together? Well, there is that spot, you know, when you make a conscious decision to not be angry and stay angry. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be bitter. Right? So I think that's awesome. What would really happen if we could be that united? But we have been told, we've heard from within and outside that we couldn't do that. Oh, Africans cannot come together. You guys are too divided. You're too different. You do this, that, and the other. And we bought into it. So we stayed angry at each other, not even knowing one another, right?
Yeah.
If you are interested in joining us in this kind of conversation discussion, reach out to us in any one of the contact information we provided.